good. Hey friends, it's Len here from 1A Auto. So today in the studio, I wanted to talk to you about some common tune-up mistakes that you might happen to make when you're doing a tune-up on your automobile. Now here in the studio, we have an older car sitting right here, and you can tell that it's got multiple carburetors coming across it, and a lot of this stuff right here, you're not even gonna see on newer type of cars. Most of us have newer cars. If you've got one of these older cars, you probably already know what you're doing, and you don't need me to tell you what to do and what not to do. So let's talk about some newer cars. Now obviously all these cars that we have here are going to be a little bit different when it comes time to doing the tune-up, but they're a little bit more modern, something that you're probably actually going to be working on. So now let's start with an older truck. This truck has a 5.7 liter engine in it. It's kind of an older style. It has a distributor cap on the back side of the engine there, which leads to some wires, and then of course those lead down to spark plugs. To be able to access all that, I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way so we can get started. Let's get this out of here. Oh. You definitely don't want to do that, especially if you're planning on reusing your air filter. Speaking of reusing the air filter, go ahead and take a peek at it. You want to make sure that it's in good condition. If it looks like it's dirty or it looks like it's clogged in any way, of course you're going to want to replace it. Now with the air filter out of the way, which essentially is the area that's going to keep any particles from getting into the engine, we're going to go ahead and take a peek right along here. We have the distributor cap with all of our ignition wires off of it. Each one of these wires leads to a specific spark plug. Go ahead and start pulling these off of here. Yeah, rip them right off of it. Wait a minute. I didn't mark which one goes where. Well, hopefully I got a diagram somewhere. And not to mention I left this wide open for any particles to make its way right into the engine. Genius. Now by just grabbing onto all these spark plug wires and ripping them off there all willy-nilly, what could potentially happen? Of course I might end up getting a misfire or even a non-running engine at the end of all this. The reason why that is of course, if I switch those wires around, we might be getting spark to a cylinder that isn't even getting fuel sent to it at the same time. If that happens, you're probably gonna notice you have a misfire, and if you mix up too many of these wires, you're probably gonna have an issue where it's not even gonna wanna run, like I said before. Now what I should have done is went ahead and marked these wires before I removed them, and the reason for that is because it's gonna make it much easier to go ahead and put them back on there and make sure I have the same specific firing order. And that's gonna be true whether I'm gonna be replacing the wires or if for some reason I wanna reuse them. And why would I do this if I'm gonna be replacing the wires anyway? Well, because when I get the new ones, I wanna make sure that I match them up so they're the exact same length. Overall, you're gonna find that you're gonna have some short wires and you're gonna have some longer wires. When you get these off of here, you want to go ahead and match them up to your new wires, and then of course put them so they're going to the same exact cylinder when you're done. And you're going to notice that I didn't go ahead and mark this center one here because that one I know is for the coil. Now we can remove the cap. So why did I say I have to remove the cap? Because if you were to look at this, you can tell that it is actually part of the ignition system. Once I go ahead and take this off of here, we're gonna take a look at the inside, and you're gonna see that there's other things that we need to pay attention to as well. Now looking at the inside of this cap, you can see where there's a whole bunch of electrical contact points. Right along there, each one of those comes along to where it connects onto your spark plug wires. If you look at those, you might be able to see a little bit of buildup on those. And commonly, you can go ahead and carefully sand those down or smooth them out a little bit. But overall, if you see a large amount of buildup on them, that could potentially cause resistance, which of course might actually lead to weak spark down at your spark plugs. I'm gonna go ahead and try to clean these things up. Using a screwdriver to clean up the contact points really isn't a good idea. I might end up chiseling up these things and you're not gonna get very good contact. Better than that, go ahead and use a little bit of fine grit, sandpaper, or even some emery cloth. We just wanna give it a light sand just so it's nice and smooth and it's gonna make good contact. Not only am I gonna do the cap, but I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna do that rotor as well. You're gonna have a contact point that's located right here. You're also gonna have another contact point. Both of these are just as important as each other. For me personally, I would replace them, but if for some reason you're not, at least clean them up. Now, when you're cleaning any parts on your ignition system, it's especially important to make sure that you don't use any chemicals that are flammable. Woo! Light them up. Now, why did I say these are contact points? Because if you look right back here at the distributor, you're gonna be able to find the rotor. Now on this area right here, you can see that it has the electrode that's supposed to hit pretty much directly up against those. And if that has any buildup on it as well, that could potentially cause resistance as well. Now, why is it important to talk about the distributor cap and the rotor? Because it's something that's often overlooked. People don't generally think about it. When they think of a tune-up, they're thinking spark plugs, maybe some wires, and if you're lucky, maybe even an air filter. If you're gonna be replacing the spark plugs and wires, it really only makes sense to go ahead and replace the distributor cap and the rotor as well. Something that I wanna note is you don't necessarily need to remove the entire distributor from the engine itself. By doing something like that, or even moving this just a little bit, it could potentially change the timing of your engine, so then you're gonna end up finding that you have runnability issues in the long run. Now it's gonna be time to put on our distributor cap. You're gonna notice as you try to put this on, typically there's gonna be something that makes sure that you don't actually put it on the wrong way. Sometimes they'll have a cutout, sometimes they'll have a marking, or something the like. Essentially, just go ahead and put it on there, make sure it lines up perfectly, and then of course, snug it up. It just tight. Oh, geez. That's not gonna stay on there now. Great. When you tighten these, you wanna make sure that you just go ahead and snug them up and give them a little bit extra. Obviously, the cap is plastic and we don't wanna damage it. Perfect. All right, let's get these wires on here. Let's see, what do we got? I got 8. Out on there. I think it was 4. Yeah, there's 3. This wire barely reaches. There we go, that looks good. Now, I don't know if you can see what I see right here, but where I just hooked up all these wires, everything's a complete mess. Not only does the coil wire not necessarily go to exactly where it needs to be, but every other wire is just kind of all in a disjumbled mess. As the engine's running or trying to turn over, it's going to be trying to distribute the spark to each cylinder as it's needed. If for some reason you put your wires on the wrong way, the distributor is going to be trying to distribute the power to the proper cylinder, but for some reason your wire is saying, hey, instead of coming over here, I got you going in over there. And of course the engine's saying, this doesn't make any sense. If you just go ahead and mix up 2 of these wires, more than likely the engine's still gonna wanna run. It's probably gonna spit and sputter a little bit, your fuel economy is gonna be a little bad, and of course, if you were to take a look underneath the truck, you might end up finding out that your catalytic converter is getting a little bit red. Why is that? Because it's dumping fuel down into the exhaust. It's not necessarily getting burnt up inside that combustion chamber, and it's gonna heat up the exhaust, maybe even cause a little bit of backfiring and such. But if you end up mixing up more than just 2, more than likely you're gonna have a serious running condition and it might not even wanna run at all. Something else that you're probably gonna notice is I have wires that come across other things, such as this wiring harness right here. Anything like this could potentially cause some interference with your ignition system. So you wanna try to make sure you have all of your cables and all of your wires away from everything else, especially if there's anything sharp or hot on the system. If when you're doing a tune-up, you happen to realize that your wires are worn, torn, or damaged in any way, like maybe this one right here, looks like it was sitting on an exhaust pipe, it only makes sense to go ahead and replace them. When you're putting the wires back on, you wanna make sure that you know the specific firing order for your engine. And also keep in mind, not just the firing order, you wanna make sure that you know that this is gonna be spinning in a clockwise rotation. So if it says 8, 4, 3, 6, you wanna make sure that you're going in a clockwise rotation. And of course, the coil wire is always gonna go in the center. Commonly when you're replacing wires, or at least rerunning them, you're gonna find that you have a whole bunch of these. Essentially what these are for is to secure the wires. They're also gonna make sure that they're separated far enough so it's not gonna cause any interference. Try to clip that right in there. Oh, I can get this thing in here, come on. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah. Oh my. Unbelievable. So now let's say for some reason you're not replacing the wires. You're only gonna do the spark plugs because you only feel like doing half of a tune-up for some reason. You're gonna come right down here to where the spark plug wires connect onto the spark plugs. When you grab onto these to try to remove them, you definitely don't want to grab onto the wire directly and just go ahead and yank it right out of there. you want to try to grab onto if there's like a boot area. Grab onto that, give it a nice twist to break it free from the actual spark plug itself and remove it. Now, if you're like me, I know exactly what you're thinking. Big deal, you went ahead and pulled this thing apart. You can just go ahead and stick it right back in there and more than likely it's going to be just fine. Well, that's commonly true, but sometimes it isn't. A lot of times when you go ahead and pull this out, you might potentially damage the rubber insulator in some way. If that's the case, you're gonna have spark transfer. The spark's gonna try coming, instead of going directly from the actual wire to the spark plug, it might jump around. It might go to the engine, might go to the manifold, it might go to anything metal that's anywhere near it. Obviously that's gonna be an issue, especially if there's water involved. If you have water in the area and this insulator can actually block the spark from jumping to anything else besides the spark plug, you're gonna have runnability issues. Other than that, this area right here could potentially get damaged in some way. If it's not making proper contact with the spark plug, once again, runnability issues. If you got a couple extra bucks, you should just go ahead and replace the wires. For me personally, if I'm doing a tune-up on something like this, I do the spark plugs and the wires at the same time. It really only makes sense. This daggone thing. Need some penetrant on this thing. Using any type of chemical on your spark plug wires could potentially cause a lot of damage. It might swell up the rubber, and of course, if the chemical you're using is flammable, I probably don't need to talk to you about it. Using pliers to take off the wires obviously isn't a very good idea. You might potentially cut right into it, and at this point, you have to replace the wires. It is common for your spark plug wires to be stuck on the spark plugs. You go ahead and try to give them a little twist. It doesn't seem like it wants to move. You give it a little tug. It doesn't want to move. You tried all those other things that I told you not to do, and it still doesn't want to come off of there. The best way to get them off of here is just to go ahead and grab onto them, and you want to try to twist them as much as possible, just like this. Obviously, I don't want to put a tug on the wire, but I want to break it free from the spark plug itself. Once it's broken free, you can just go ahead and twist as you remove it, and then of course, inspect it if you're not replacing it. Moving along to spark plugs. At this point, it's going to be time to start removing the spark plugs. A lot of times, they might be out in the open like on this truck right here. Newer cars, typically they're going to be buried underneath a couple different things. They might be a little bit at an angle. You might have a hard time even accessing them. If that's the case, you want to make sure that you're using the proper socket to remove and install the spark plugs. As you can imagine, the spark plug's a very delicate part. Up along here is especially delicate. It's fragile, it's brittle, and if you go ahead and crack it, your spark plug isn't going to function properly. On the inside of a good spark plug socket, you're going to be able to see a rubber bushing inside there, and that's going to actually hold onto the spark plug and keep the socket from wobbling around on it and potentially breaking it. If you were to just try to use a regular old socket, it's going to fit on there. It's probably going to remove the spark plug, but when it comes time to installation, you could potentially have yourself a very big issue. And this is a little bit less of a big deal if the spark plugs are going side to side into the engine as opposed to being straight up and down. Let's get this thing out of here. Who uses an air gun to take out spark plugs? There we go. Oh yeah. I got the spark plug out of here, but what you probably noticed is I didn't go ahead and clean down the engine around where the spark plug went in. Why would I want to clean down the engine? Well, you can imagine, if any of the dirt or debris that's sitting on that engine around where the spark plug is falls into the cylinder head, you're going to have an issue. You're going to have runnability issues. You might potentially even damage your piston or the inside of the cylinder of your engine. Commonly, before you go ahead and take out the spark plug, you're going to want to clean around the area. I like to use a little bit of compressed air. That way there it's going to go ahead and blow off any of that debris that might be inside the localized area. I definitely, like I said before, don't want to use any flammable chemicals. Of course, the engine's going to get hot as it's running, and you don't want anything crazy to happen. Compressed air is the way to go. Cleaning the hole with the spark plug out is definitely not a good idea. So it's finally time that we can get ready to install our spark plugs. Now this part's going to be very important to pay attention to a couple things. When you're purchasing your spark plug, there's some things that you want to think about. You want to think about the shanked end. You want to make sure that the end right along here matches up with the original spark plug. As you can tell, the threaded area on some is much longer than others. If I went ahead and screwed this into my engine where it was supposed to have this nice short one, obviously you can imagine what might happen. The piston might come right up to where it's supposed to be, but then it hits right up against the bottom of that spark plug, and you could potentially cause internal engine damage and more than likely other damage as well. Let's also talk about spark plug materials. Spark plugs are going to be made out of different things. Some of them have copper, some of them have platinum, or even iridium. There's a couple other different types of spark plugs, but those are the more common ones. These different types of metals could potentially have different heat ranges and spark resistance. If you end up using the wrong spark plug inside your vehicle, something that's not necessarily recommended by the manufacturer, you might find that you have poor fuel economy, you might find that the spark plugs wear out a little quicker than what you might want them to, or even you might have runnability issues, just kind of bumbles and stumbles around, you don't have any power, and maybe it doesn't even want to start sometimes. So make sure that you grab a spark plug that's specifically made for your particular application. Like I said, you want to make sure that you have the proper shanked end here. If you go with the long one, you're going to have an issue. If you have the wrong materials for the spark plug, you might potentially have runnability issues, in which case, why did you even do a tune-up in the first place? Alright, so I set up a little bit of an experiment over here, and I don't want you to go ahead and do this at home because I'm a trained professional. As you can tell, I have a ground wire coming across all of my spark plugs. They're connected into a coil right here, and the ground wire, of course, goes over to the battery. I took out the relay for the fuel pump because, of course, I don't want to go ahead and flood my engine. At this point, from a safe distance, we can take a look at the spark that's coming off of each of these spark plugs. Now, as these were sparking, you might have noticed that some of the sparks were brighter or even lighter than the others. Some of them might have been a little bit dimmer, some of them might have been a little bit bigger of a spark even. Typically, that's because of the type of material that the spark plug's made out of, or even the gap on the spark plug. So now we're done with this experiment. Let's get back over to the other truck so we can get ready to install our spark plugs. All right, let's get started on this. Oh, great. Unbelievable. Before we can go ahead and install our brand new spark plugs, you're going to want to make sure that you at least take a look at the gap. If you were to look at this one right here, you can tell that maybe something might have happened to this in shipping, handling, or anything like. Maybe you're just walking around, you happen to drop the box looks fine, you take out the spark plug, you don't even take a look at it, put it into the cylinder there, next thing you know, you have a running condition. So you always want to make sure you at least take a look at the gaps of all the spark plugs, make sure they're approximately the same. Now, when I talk about gapping spark plugs, I mean you want to be very careful when you're doing this, because on a lot of spark plugs, such as iridium, platinum, or even double platinum, if you go ahead and you take one of these little gapping tools and you shove it inside there and you start wiggling it around because you want to check and even change the gap on the spark plug, you could potentially damage the metals of the spark plug to the point that the truck's not even going to want to run. So you want to be very careful. You can use one of these things, but when you stick it in there, you want to be delicate as can be. A spark plug like this is one of the ones that you definitely don't want to be using a gapping tool on. You don't want to go ahead and stick it inside there and just try to pry on it and increase or decrease the gap in any way. Another thing you don't want to do, try changing the gap that way. Of course, what could happen? You might actually damage the grounding strap right across here, or even any type of metal that's on it. Like I said, if it's platinum or iridium or anything the like. Now, if your spark plugs look like either of these, well, you need to go ahead and get yourself a couple new ones. All right, let's get this socket. This thing's wobbling around like crazy. Oh. Oh no. Great. Oh, well, this is definitely not supposed to happen. Why did it happen? Possibly a couple different reasons. If you were to look at the socket that I was using, I'm sure you remember I talked to you about the socket itself. You want to make sure you're using a spark plug socket. I used a regular socket on this, and the spark plug can just wobble around. As it was wobbling around, I cracked the actual material of the spark plug, which was very delicate, and now I need to buy myself another spark plug. Aside from that, when I was trying to start it in, I didn't start it in by hand to make sure that it was going in there properly. A couple things that might have happened, not just the fact that the spark plug itself could have broke like this one right here, but also I could have cross-threaded the spark plug into the engine, which of course is going to cause another huge issue. Now I got to get in there and try to re-tap out the hole. I want to make sure that it's nice and clean, the threads are perfect before I can even put in another spark plug. Now these spark plugs are right out in the open, they're a little bit easier to work on than other cars, but if you can imagine if this was on the backside of the engine or someplace that you couldn't even see, and I was just doing this all willy-nilly like a maniac, I broke the spark plug in there, or even I cross-threaded it in, it's gonna cause another couple hours of misery for me while I'm trying to do something as simple as replacing spark plugs. Okay, I learned from my experience. Now at this point, I'm gonna use a spark plug socket for it. The reason for that is because I can take the spark plug, slide it right inside there. I don't have to worry about it wobbling around. To put in the spark plug, we're gonna use some copper never sees. No, we're not. That's a horrible idea. Not only is it gonna change the torque of the spark plug when we go ahead and try to put it in there, but if you were to look at this right here, at this point I've got copper never sees all over the electrode of the spark plug. Is it gonna function properly? I'd have to say probably not. I'm gonna go ahead and start it in there by hand. I got it started. Let's use the air gun to tighten it up. definitely don't use an air gun to tighten it up. Get this out of here. Once I have it so it seems like it's started and it's definitely not cross-threaded, at that point I can continue on with my ratchet and then I'll torque it to manufacturer's specifications. Perfect. Keep in mind that just because you have an 8-cylinder engine doesn't necessarily mean that you have only 8 spark plugs inside of that. This engine right here is gonna have 16 spark plugs, 2 for each cylinder. At this point, we can take our wires and we can get ready to put them right on the spark plug. Well, before we do that, we wanna add a tiny bit of lubricant to that. So I'm just gonna take this grease gun. No. You definitely don't want to go ahead and use automotive all-purpose grease. The reason for that is because it's not going to conduct the electricity that's supposed to be coming from the wires or the coils down to the spark plug so they can spark up that combustion chamber. If I was to use this, more than likely I'm going to have a dead cylinder when it comes time to sparking up all that fluid. More likely you're going to want to use something that looks like this. This is silicone paste and you can see right on it, it says dielectric grease. The reason why you want to use this is, of course, it's going to help keep moisture out of the area in case you're driving through puddles or rain or in a humid area. Aside from that, it's also going to help in the future when it comes time to taking off these wires. They're just going to kind of twist a little bit and then pop right off. When we do this, we're just going to use a tiny amount. You don't need a whole glob inside there. You just want enough to coat the area. We'll slide it right onto the spark plug. Listen for a click and then give it a nice wiggle. After you have it like that, you want to ensure that it's definitely not touching up against anything hot, such as a manifold if it runs along it. Okay, so we have the wires in here, we've got all the spark plugs done, everything looks amazing. Nothing's touching where it shouldn't be. I think this is good to go. Aside from that, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the rest of this engine together so everything's back together the way that it needs to be and we can get it out of here. But since I've got you on the video, I wanna talk about a couple other things that are involved in different types of ignition systems, such as ignition coils. Let's get over to the bench. Over at the bench, I have a ton of things going on over here that I wanted to show you. Right over here, we have a single coil that's gonna function 6 different spark plug wires. You're gonna have wires that come right off of it, and each of those is gonna lead to a spark plug of its own. Something like this, you're gonna have 1 coil per cylinder. Now this one over here, this is a strange looking coil, isn't it? It has an area that's gonna go right down onto a spark plug, but it also has a wire that's gonna lead to a second spark plug. So this 1 coil right here can actually function 2 different cylinders, not at the same time, just to say. This one right here is actually gonna function 2 different spark plugs, but in all honesty, it actually functions 1 cylinder. This is gonna be on a very particular type of truck. It's something that has a Hemi, and I'm sure you've seen me driving it. Now this one right here is gonna have an area where just a few wires connect into, and that's gonna be the signal wire and of course the power wire. It's gonna get traveled right down this pack right here, and then of course it's gonna know exactly which one of those spark plugs to go ahead and fire. It's a complete coil pack right here, and you can't just go ahead and replace one little piece of it. Once again, you'd replace the assembly. Aside from that, we have a single coil over right here. This one's gonna sit right down into the engine, and then plug right onto your spark plug. Right here's where it's gonna get its power from. And of course, if any of these were to go bad, of course it's an electrical thing and you're gonna wanna replace it as an assembly. So let's take a closer look at these things. Oh, jeez. Well, how could these things go bad? Something like this isn't necessarily something that you're gonna go ahead and replace every time you do a tune-up on your car. Generally, if you find that you're having a runnability issue, you're gonna wanna make sure that you check those spark plugs and check everything else along the way. Sometimes you're gonna have an issue with the coil. Why might you have an issue with the coil? Well, because as you can tell, along the outside, it's all plastic. Yeah, you're probably not gonna go ahead and drop it like I just did. Who really does that? But it can potentially happen, especially in shipping or anything the like. If it's been in your vehicle for a long period of time, what could potentially happen? Well, of course, your engine gets hot and then cools down. Hot, cools down, over and over. There's a lot of cycles to that. Anything like that could potentially cause cracks in the plastic. Other than that, if you're tightening this up and you try to over tighten it or over torque it, you could potentially crack the plastic. Either way, if the plastic's cracked in any way, you could potentially get moisture inside of here. You can imagine what's on the inside of here. It's an electronic circuit board. It's supposed to control the amount of power getting shot down to your spark plug. So if moisture gets in there, it's gonna cause corrosion. Corrosion is gonna cause a major issue. Perfect.
Probably good.
If I get a screwdriver, I can split it now. Not much in there. I think that was the one.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh. Now that I've got that apart for you, you can see exactly what's going on inside this coil. You have the coiled up copper right along this area here. And then in an area that you can see a little bit less, you can see the green area, of course. That's actually where the circuit board is. If moisture can make its way inside any of this area right here, you can imagine what's going to happen. As far as ignition coils are concerned, you don't necessarily have to replace them every time you do a tune-up. Something like this is something that you only replace if there's need be. Your spark plugs, of course, have a maintenance schedule. You want to make sure that you keep up with that. Whatever the manufacturer says, that's what you want to do. The coils themselves, unless they go bad, you shouldn't have to replace them. But with that said, if you find that you have an issue with one of your coils, typically it's a good idea to go ahead and replace them all. Now, I know that's not really something that everybody wants to hear, because if you try to buy one of these things, honestly, they can cost you sometimes a couple $100 just for one. So if you have to replace 8 of them, or even more than that for some reason, it's gonna cost you a little bit of money. But overall, if you're trying to do the best you can for your engine and the drivability of your vehicle itself, it only makes sense. If you need one, replace them all. Now, this car right here is a very popular modern car. You see a lot of these on the road. Go ahead and take off this cover right along here, and we're gonna find 3 of our ignition coils. It's a 6-cylinder though. Where's the other 3? Well, on this one in particular, they're right under here on the back side of the engine. As you can tell, they're a little bit harder to get to. Sometimes you have to remove the intake assembly just to be able to access them. If that's the case, you can imagine how hard it's going to be able to actually get the coils out of there and get to those spark plugs to go ahead and replace them. This one over here, another popular car, except for this one, you take off the cover and you're only going to find 4 coils. Why is that? It's a 4-cylinder. And if you look real hard at it, you can tell it looks like somebody replaced only 1 coil. Quick question on this car, you remember this one from the beginning. What type of ignition system do you think that this has in it? Think it has those little coils that sit on top of the spark plugs? Or maybe something a little different? Leave it in the comment section. Let's hear it. All right, so stay with me now. I know we're talking about a tune-up, but there are other things that you want to think about inside the engine compartment. You just spent a whole bunch of money on making sure that you replace the spark plugs, the wires, everything else that we told you to go ahead and replace. You checked your air filter, you made sure that the fuel filter is good enough. What about a couple other things? You have some belts underneath here. Of course, you're gonna have the serpentine belt. If this is damaged in any way, or it's worn or torn, you're gonna wanna make sure that you replace it. If for some reason it breaks or it completely comes off of there, doesn't matter how good those spark plugs are, the engine's just really not gonna go very far. Aside from that, you have a whole bunch of fluids and hoses that you're gonna wanna make sure you check. If you're not up to date on maintaining everything else, it doesn't really matter if your spark plugs are good overall. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have proper maintenance schedule, and you wanna make sure you go by the manufacturer's specifications for your particular application. Okay friends, so we had a lot of fun making this video for you. I hope you learned a little something, and maybe you're even gonna go ahead and do a tune-up of your own. When you do it, make sure you don't do any of these mistakes that I talked to you about. The reason why I wanted to talk to you about it is so that I did the mistake, you can learn from it, and you don't necessarily have to do it. Overall, most of these engines are gonna go for a very long time, sometimes 200, 300, 400,000 miles, as long as you maintain them. If you keep up with your maintenance, the engine's gonna last a very long time. Now just keep in mind, tune-ups on every car is gonna be a little bit different, but overall, they're kinda about the same. They're gonna have some spark plugs, more than likely wires or even coils that sit over those spark plugs. Aside from that, if you've got an older truck like this one right here, you're probably gonna have that distributor cap, so you're gonna wanna make sure that you pay attention to that as well. I hope you liked the video. I hope you learned a little something. If you did, and you want to talk about it, leave it in the comments section below, because I always love to hear from you. If you liked the video, smash on the like button for me. It would mean the world. While you're at it, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell. That way there you can be kept up with all of our latest content. Thanks. What'd I do with these spark plugs?